Let me tell you something. Kids, they don't belong in the outdoors. Traveling, you want to do that stuff, you better do that before you have kids. Because once that you do have them, it's over. That life, it just pretty much ends. That's what we heard all the time when we were talking about having kids. We got it constantly from people on the internet, from family, friends, and that's just kind of a common sentiment that people have in our modern society, which is kind of strange because we come from a society of being outdoors. We grew up in the outdoors. That's where we came from. But in the last 50 years, this barrier has risen up that has caused a lot of doubt of people to take kids in the outdoors. But I met Natasha, and when we met, the outdoors was kind of a very central, fundamental part of our relationship and how we grew together. The outdoors is a place that we go to remove ourselves from all other distractions and spend time with each other in a place that feels and is like, I really can't explain how I feel about the outdoors. It's beyond words, and I feel like every time I really try to do that, it's extremely inadequate. But it's more or less like a spiritual connection. It's something, and I know all of you have your own words, and you all understand what I'm talking about. But we've always done things a bit unconventional. We've decided that we do not let others decide how we're going to live. Life is literally how we decide it's going to be. And it's not what others decide it is going to be. So when we heard this, we decided we're going to make it happen, even though like everybody else tells you can't. But honestly, when we had our daughter, and you're holding this little teeny thing in your arms, it's like, okay, I doubt everything, all this resolve that we had, and it is terrifying. Like the drive, I'm sure any dad could remember like that drive home after the hospital. It's like, just like, oh my gosh, I got this little teeny body, and you spend a couple weeks just looking at it and eyeing at it. But when we were about 3 weeks old, or when she was 3 weeks old, when she was 3 weeks old, it started, we were like, okay, we got this diaper changing thing down. Natasha's breast milk never really came in, so we had to do formula bottles and mixing formulas and feeding her with syringes and doing all this, and we felt like we had that down in 3 weeks. So we were like, okay, we got to break this barrier. But it felt terrifying, despite all the experience we had in the outdoors. We spent a lot of time doing backpacking, climbing, all these adventures, but taking that little life out into the outdoors felt terrifying because of all this social norm. So we loaded up the RV 4Runner with everything we had in the whole entire house, I swear. Like when we went out there, we had this 10 by 15 foot tent. We had it outfitted in furniture and all big comfy chairs so Natasha could sit in there, the pack and play, everything. And but it broke that barrier of going into the outdoors, and it made it where it's like we still feel nervous, but you ask yourself, why do you feel nervous? Because you have everything. You're not leaving anything behind. And you don't really have to when you go car camping. So we broke that barrier. And that experience, just kind of seeing her, like introducing her to a wildflower and the trees and blades of grass and the watching the leaves dance on the tent in the sun, which she found super interesting, just like made it all feel like this is exactly what we want for her. This is the best life that we can possibly imagine, and we wanted to give this to her.
Yeah, so after that first experience, car camping, we did a lot more. When she was 2 months old, we took her on the first backpacking trip. We went to Jade Lake in Washington. And after that, we went to Glacier National Park. We did multi-day trip. We did Kinla to Bowman. I don't know if anybody did. It's a beautiful multi-day backpack. And then we did more in Canada. And we just kept going. And by the time she was 6 months old, we thought, we nailed this. This is like second nature to us. We know exactly what we need to bring. Like on the trip in Montana, we used just regular diapers, but we learned pretty quickly that by the end of that trip that we had like a dry bag of like probably 20 pounds of dirty diapers. And we're like, we can't do this on every backpacking trip. So we found like biodegradable liners. And so She's 6 months old, and we're thinking, well, it's beautiful fall weather. We're gonna take her on a very chill backpacking trip in Escalante, Utah. So we hike into Jacob Hamlin Arch, and there is nobody around. Trees are beautiful. We get the prime spot for the tent. And it's about time to feed her because we had to feed her every 3 hours at the time. I reach into my backpack and we realized that we forgot like the main part of the bottle. And she's starting to cry. She's so hungry. And we're thinking, what are we going to do? Okay, we can just pack up and hike out 7 miles back and just, forget it. Forget this trip that we planned and time spending together. But in the end, we sat down and we thought, okay, we can figure this out. And so we figured out a system to feed her. And it would involve two of us. So Jake would hold the baby, her arms and legs so that she would not swing them around. And we would put the bottle top in her mouth, just like a little funnel. And we would slowly drip formula into it so that she can drink it up. And so that took like about 40 minutes. And we would do it every 3 hours for 3 days. And you would think, well, why would you do that for like 3 days? Is that fun? But to us, it was totally worth it because then we did lots of hiking and exploring there, and we just had a great time. And that trip, we just learned, okay, it doesn't matter. As a parent, you will always unavoidably screw up somewhere. You can forget stuff. And then as kids grow, they change, and you have to adjust. So we just said, don't let these things, this fear, stop you from getting into the outdoors.
Yeah, like 3 weeks to 2-year-old is a completely different game all along the way. They're always developing. They're always changing. The game is always, you're chasing after them. Let me say, like, when they don't move, really great, pretty easy. You set them down in the tent, put them down, they go to sleep. They're looking, like, it's all cute and fun games. And then they start crawling and walking, and it's just like, becomes a whole different game. But just that, the experiences of seeing her, introducing her to her first wildflower and watching her see the tallest trees in the world and take her, begin to crawl in a van that we bought in New Zealand that we lived in for 2 months, and then begin to walk on the Olympic coast, take her first steps on the Olympic coast when we went out there backpacking. And just like this whole, watching her grow in the outdoors, it's just like, I can't think of a better way to raise a child. People talk about like kids that are really fussy and have just like, don't sleep really well, but she sleeps better in the outdoors than she does at home. I feel like when we're outdoors, she's a lot more calm, she's a lot more centered, and you can see that she's taking in this energy. This is the only thing I can describe it. This energy that you feel in the outdoors into her, and it just makes it all worth it. Like, why would you suffer through it? Because of that. Like, and I know y'all feel it because y'all get out and do this stuff, but why would you not want to take kids out there? And, well, it becomes really clear when you're listening to somebody else's kid. You're like, I would never do that. But, but when it's your kid, it totally changes. And I can't think of a better way to do that. And it's just also one of our things as a family is we've been trying to slim down our lives, live life more simply by moving into a van and a whole bunch of different things that we've done. And the motto has kind of been collecting memories instead of things. And in the outdoors, that's where you create memories that span all other things. It sets you out of that element, pushes you outside of your comfort zone to be able into moments where the moments become very vivid and very real. And that's how I'm so grateful to have that opportunity to spend with her and be able to remember teaching her to grow and teaching her to be a young lady. And yeah.
So to all those people that say that kids don't belong in the outdoors, that your life of adventure have to stop, from our experience, we say that's not true. It's not easy, but you can do this. And we put together a little video for you of those moments that we created, highlights over the past 2 years. And yeah, we want to share it with you. Enjoy.